We've been speaking with the brains trust of JP Morgan, Sajid Chinoy and Sanjay Mukim on how the economy will shape up in 2022 and what are the sweepstakes for investors. Thank you for your patience. Sajid, before I come to the Fed withdrawal of liquidity, which will be very important for markets and macros, just the IIP number and Indian growth in general, how is it looking for you? Will FY22 be better than 21?
So we've seen an encouraging pickup, Lata, in the last couple of months, but I think it's important to distinguish how much of this is just a reopening of the economy, how much of this is festival demand, and how much of this is going to sustain thereafter. Clearly, the services economy is rebounding. What's been a little bit concerning is if you look at the IIP, on a sequential basis, things appear to have plateaued for a few months. Now, if you then step back and ask the question over the next 4 to 6 quarters, where is that growth going to come from? Most people reflexively will say, well, it's going to be private consumption or private investment. For a long time, we've been saying no. So far, if you look closely, India's recovery has been driven by public investment, a big push of central capex, and by very strong export growth. And both these came through in the last GDP number. So despite the encouraging news over the last couple of months, I think we have to recognize that private consumption will take time to heal, given some of the scarring in the labor market. Private investment will take time to come on stream, given that utilization rates are in the early 60s. And therefore, we should not be, overinterpret the recent pickup, which could be a reopening, and continue down the path that we've been on. The next budget, I think, must focus on continued public capex and I think incentivize the states to do the same. And if the global economy is as buoyant as we think it will be, India needs to position itself to take advantage of that in terms of stronger export growth.
Okay. Stronger export growth. Okay, Sanjay, you spoke about demand a bit when you discussed consumer goods with us. Infrastructure, would you therefore be bullish on, say, the L&Ts of the world, the road contractors and infra providers? How would you interpret this infra push?
Well, I think from an industrial capex point of view, I'd like to split my answer into 3 parts, Lata, right? If you think of pure industrial capex, which is linked to capacity creation by corporate India, that will take time to come back, right? As Sajid has just highlighted, while balance sheets of corporates have improved, utilizations are well below where they were pre-pandemic, and therefore there is going to be some time before an industrial capex cycle comes back. Infrastructure capex is more sustainable. This is partly funded by Government of India, but partly by multilateral agencies, and you will continue to get nominal inflation along with GDP growth in the sort of order flows and activity levels. So that looks like a steady sort of growth part of capex in India. But the third business, which is more interesting for all of us in all of this, is real estate, Lata, where mortgage rates are at 20-year lows. Affordability continues to increase, and we are actually already seeing signs of improved transaction and improved appetite from buyers. That can be actually a more sustainable multi-quarter upcycle, which drives aggregate capex in India more than the industrial, which most investors tend to focus on more.
Okay, got that. But I mean, speaking about consumption, demand, etc., where do you stand on these new gen e-commerce companies, the Nykas, the Zomatos? Are there places where margins are not hurt and they are still on your positive list?
Right. So let me not answer in specific to any particular name, but we did publish a note on this a couple of weeks ago, Lata, where we argued that, look, if you're a long-term investor in India, there is a lot of growth to be had. I mean, India is underpenetrated on a lot of these consumer categories, on technology categories. So if you have patient capital, that growth is relatively high visibility and of high assurance. The difference in India versus, let's say, the tech sector in China is that we have IPO'd these companies at a relatively low per capita income. So if you have expectations that these companies will start delivering tons of cash flow and profitability in the next 3 years, then that is very aggressive. So because of the stage of growth that we are in, either you're going to get that top line growth or you're going to get profitability, and companies must choose one or the other. The
Okay.
trouble that I see in forecast today is that analysts are building in both, that you will get both top line growth and strong profitability within the next 3 years, which is where I think we need to get a little bit more realistic in estimates.
Yeah, fair point. Some of these companies sound like flats in Altamont Road, isn't it? Already priced in types beyond your reach. Okay, Sajid, now to the favorite question on Fed tapering. I worry about the current account deficit being high for 3 months in a row, September, October, November. But we have good reserves. So this Fed tapering, how serious can it be for Indian macros?
A couple of things, Lata. I think the taper per se is kind of baked into the price. Markets will not react adversely if the Fed accelerates the taper. We think it will double it from 15 to 30 billion so that the taper stops in March. What's looked for closely this week is the dot lot, right? That markets have priced in 3 rate hikes for 2022. But if you look at the US 10-year bond yield, it's not pricing in very much after 2023. What could come as a sticker shock is if you get a rate hike a quarter for 2023 and 2024, taking the terminal rate closer to 250. That's what could surprise markets. Now, what does this mean for emerging markets? I think there's a lot of differentiation. Some emerging markets are more vulnerable. I would argue, Lata, we're in a very different place compared to 2013. The macro fundamentals look much more sound. What I will say is you're exactly right. The current account deficit for this quarter, October, November, December, is tracking above 3%, 3.3% of GDP. But in a way, it's almost a perfect storm. It's been impacted by higher commodity prices, which is a negative terms of trade shock. It's had the reopening of the economy in October and November. So non-oil, non-gold volumes have gone up. There's been some front loading because of festival demand, and exports have tapered off. So we think this is a little bit of an aberration. This is the peak. From next quarter onwards, we go back to a current account, which is going to be in the 2% handle because some of these factors will reverse. But you're right. See, if commodity prices are higher and oil is going to be about 80, we've got to start learning to live with the current account with a 2 handle, not a 1 handle.
Okay.
Hope here is if this is good global reflation, that these higher commodity prices are reflecting not supply bottlenecks, but strong global demand, then India's export should reflect that as well, and we should see stronger export growth. So I would say full year current account this year, not a problem, 1.6%. Second half will be in the high 2s. Next year, we're looking at 2%, which is not threatening, but we have to keep an eye because high commodity prices do have an adverse impact both on the current account and on inflation.
My sympathies for those of you who have to parse this because, I just had a shipping expert telling me that constraints are going to continue and they will be able to extract pricing, and a copper commodity expert telling me that we're going to be facing a glut of copper. So, there are all kinds of views. Sanjay, but the most important thing is IT, the giant. Where do you stand there? If there is great global growth, IT should do well. You like those stocks?
We are only marginally overweight IT. We've cut our overweights perhaps a little bit earlier than I should have. And the concern we have, Lata, is that expectations have already caught up to the strength in demand. And our filtering criteria, as we've discussed previously, is to look for stocks which can beat or surprise expectations. So we look for companies that can surprise. And the one concern that we have on IT, and we do a lot of work on this every quarter, is on margins. So what we notice in our quant work, Lata, is that managements of IT companies themselves are extremely cautious on margins in the space, but the actual delivery is much better. So there is a very interesting divergence that is opening up in the tone of companies on margins and the actual delivery. If the next 2 quarters turn out to be the way companies are fearing, then it could become a bit of a negative surprise on IT companies.
Okay. Well, actually, we are out of time, but I think I've got some valuable inputs from both of you. Have a great 2022 yourselves. Well, the Brains Trust of JPM tells us that it's going to be a great global growth story next year, but Sanjay warns that much of it may be already priced in by Indian stocks, yet very positive on consumer discretionaries, realty, basically not seeing serious accidents in the market, but perhaps not the kind of steamy growth in the markets that 2021 gave us. That's it in this special Hello 2022. Thanks for watching.